So, everybody, welcome to the second workshop of Cloud Study Jams. We've got our glorious host here, Prottay Karim, who will be teaching you about how to explore the cloud. So, PK, take it away.
Okay, so welcome guys to the second study jam for Google Cloud Platform, and we should get started. This event is brought to you by Google Developer Student Club of RMIT. We have Millie, our GDSC lead, and you guys know Millie. Millie is more famous than me, so let's talk about the agenda of this. Let's talk about the agenda. We're going to start off with an introduction and recap of the last workshop. And we're going to take 45 minutes to explore the Cloud Shell and G-Cloud, and another 45 minutes to look at the Google Kubernetes engine for Google Cloud. So do share your photos on LinkedIn or on social media with the hashtag Google Cloud Study Jam, Cloud Study Jam 21, and do tag us at GDSC RMIT. Let's see. So, quick recap. If you missed the workshop, there's a link in the chat to an Excel sheet. Do put your email IDs there, and I'll send you some Google Cloud credits so we can get started with this. Let's see, we have again, guys, if you missed the first workshop, you send your emails in this link, then we can add some credits to your account. I guess we have the emails that we need. We just need the share group. Okay, GDSC workshop 2, and I can add your emails here. Do we have everybody? Did everyone who missed the first event write down your emails in the Excel sheet? Emails are still coming in.
Is it just me or is there a tiny cloud in the Excel sheet?
Oh yeah, there's a tiny cloud in the Excel sheet. Oh, nice catch, by the way. We weren't supposed to see that Easter egg. So I guess we have the emails. Yep, I'll just send you some, say, right. Oh God, I just gave you all away my 100 credits, but okay. So let's get started. First of all, we look at the lab. The lab is basically called Quick Labs, and this is a Google Cloud platform for your certifications, labs, tutorials, and most of everything. You should be able to now go on to google.quicklabs.com Quest 23, or you can Google GCP Essentials. Do use the incognito window because you will be adding a lot of temporary emails and passwords to sign into Google Cloud. And you should see the two screens below. If you directly go to the link, you should land up on screenshot 2, and if you Google GCP Essentials, you should land up on the first screenshot. And you would want to go in and log into the Quick Lab. Yep. So you're gonna hit my account and you're gonna hit join for the newcomers, and for the people who have done the previous workshop, just sign in. And you should all have your credits for today's workshop. Use the incognito window. You're gonna want to Google or follow the link and come here. You'll hit join for newcomers, and you're gonna hit sign in if you attended the previous workshop. All your emails should have sufficient credits for this event and for a lot of events in the future. And then you would want to hit enroll for this quest. The account procedure could be a bit slow because you have to go through a lot of verification and stuff. Yes, you have to sign in with the link, with the email that you provided in the Google Sheet. You're using incognito because for this workshop, your Google is going to give you a temporary email ID and a temporary password for 2 different labs. And if you don't, these 2 email IDs will be saved into your Chrome or in your web browser, and you won't be able to log out of it because the password is going to expire.
I think some people joined recently, so maybe say it again.
Oh, okay. So you guys, if you did not attend the first workshop, you should go on to quicklabs.com/quest/23 on your incognito window. Take a while. A bit, most probably. How many credits do you have? Let's take a look. Share your credits. This is us. just happened? Oopsie. I think I did something. Could you reload your screen to see if you have credits now?
Okay, I'll check. Yep, thanks.
Okay. Thanks to you. Like, I did not notice that I didn't add the filters.
Happens to the best of us.
So, do we all have credits? We should have 100 share credits that you can use to complete your GCP labs, this labs, and others that you want to explore. Great.
I haven't received those.
Oh no, you don't have to. Like, you should have your own credits from the first workshop.
Yep, I think I have 5.
Oh yeah, I'll add more to you. Don't worry. Like, the plan was to have everyone come on the last day of the event and give them like a total of 400 credits to share. But as we have a lot of newcomers, I just added 100 to them.
Yep, because I can get with the 5 credits I have to the final one, and then the final one has 5 credit cost.
I'll add them to your. I'll add them to like everybody after during the third workshop. So we can get back to oops, not share. Yep. So on the first workshop, we went through these 2 labs, and these 2 labs were based. We will be discussing these 2 labs more in the next slide. So we started off by talking about a career in cloud and how Quick Labs has all different types of labs and certifications for the cloud platform. Quick Labs also has certifications for AWS, and we also showed a career specialization certification from Google that's available on Coursera. And that was the discussion on career in clouds. Yes, and if you want the slides for the first workshop, go to our website, GDSC RMIT, just Google it, and then you can find all the slides to the first event under the first event section. And then we moved on to what is cloud. We asked ourselves what is cloud, and basically we defined it at a very basic level as getting things done on someone else's computer, a computer that you have access to that is on the cloud, or you access it via internet and you can delete it later on. We talked about 3 different cloud services, which are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And the difference between them. We also discussed how we can use Google Cloud's infrastructure to set up an application. And then it was the time for our first lab. Quick Labs has an array of certifications, and we basically first went through the course catalog. We entered the first lab and we saw how to use Google Cloud and Quick Labs, and it was a very short lab, and we'll be doing it again today, so don't worry if you missed the first one. And then we moved on to virtual machines. Virtual machines are software-based computers, like a physical computer. We will be creating one today as well. We also talked about regions and zones, where regions are independent geographic areas that consist of zones. Locations within regions tend to have round-trip network latencies of under 5 milliseconds on the 95th percentile. And after discussing a bit about virtual machines, we went to the second lab. And here we created a virtual machine using the GCP user interface. Today we'll be creating a virtual machine using the terminal, the GCP terminal. We showed you all the different APIs available and how to access them, and we hosted an Nginx server on the cloud. You can do the first and the second lab after the workshop today or before the third workshop, and you should have, it's fairly easy and you should be done with it in an hour or two, I guess. Okay. And finally, we ended the event with some extras and chill session where we showed a fun certification for people interested in data engineering. So that was basically the first workshop. How do you guys like newcomers, especially the ones who missed the first workshops? Are you guys like okay and ready to move on? Do you guys have any questions or things? Yes, Stephanie.
Oh, I was about to say I'm okay to move on because I did the first lab, but I can't speak for anyone else.
Okay. Yeah, the whole lab and the workshop is on YouTube as well. So if you do get stuck somewhere or have any questions, I'm there on Discord to help out, and you can also follow a guided tutorial on YouTube. Yep, great, Jacob.
I think we should move on.
Okay. Let's get started with second session. So, Google Shell and G-Cloud. Cloud Shell is a Debian-based virtual machine, which makes it easy for you to manage your cloud platform projects and services. By Debian-based, I actually mean it's sort of like Ubuntu for Linux. It's based on Linux, so Google Cloud essentially uses Debian to manage its terminal. If you don't have experience with it, don't worry. This is going to be a guided lab. The Cloud Shell is pre-installed with Google Cloud SDK and other tools. You get 5 gigs of persistent disk storage and Google Cloud Shell command line access to a virtual machine instance in a terminal window that opens in the web console. So you don't have to set up any environments or worry about anything. Everything will be there in your cloud console. So I guess that's enough info to get started with the first lab. I'll be doing it with you. So let's get started. To get started with Cloud Shell. Yeah. So once you're here, you are gonna go through the overview and the setup, and then you will hit Start Lab to start the session. It's fairly longer than the first two labs because it has more tasks, but we should be able to do it within due time. Okay.
Just super quickly, did we get up to getting started with Cloud Shell and G-Cloud or Compute Engine Quick Start Windows?
Oh, good. So the lab was basically set up in a way that first we do a tour of quick labs in Google Cloud, and then we had to choose an elective between creating a virtual machine and Compute Engine Quick Start Windows. We did the creating a virtual machine part because it's more used in the industry. So once we did this, we actually had passed this too. So today we're going to be getting started with Cloud Shell and G-Cloud. So up here, you're going to go through the overview, take a look at what we're going to be doing today. And after you have a read of the starter setup, we can start the lab, okay? You go through the overview and the setup for the first comers in the second workshop. So let's go ahead and start the lab, okay? So when you click on Start Lab, you will click on Use Subscription, not the access group thing. And once you do, it's going to take, yep, it's here. So this is your username and password. It's just like your Gmail ID and password, and this is the project ID that's going to be set up in Google Cloud. So once you're comfortable with it, hit open Google Console, and it should ask you for a sign-in. Copy your username here, copy your password, and paste your password and hit next. And you'll be in the cloud platform. So in the first lab, we saw the navigation bar and all the different services and APIs that we have access to. We had a look at our project name and project ID. So for today, we're going to go up to the top right and we're going to activate Cloud Shell. I guess you don't need a subscription. I shared the credits with you, so those should be enough. Emil. Did you have your Pimal, you should have the credits. Could you just log out and log in again, just as a precaution? Let me know what happened. Okay. Yes. Just to be sure, Pimal, is this your email ID? Having problem with the subscription, like if do any of you not have credits or not getting access to the subscription?
What is the mean of that countdown which is on top? It's counting 41.
Well, that's the time for your lab actually.
Okay, it means it will be ended after that minute or second, whatever.
Yes. Could you take a look at this? Like, is this your email ID? Okay, so you put your email ID wrong, I guess. Okay, no worries. I'm just gonna add them now. That is why. Okay. Yep, you're added. You should be able to access them now. Okay. So let's continue with the lab. Select. Okay, so you'll select the, should be the fourth one. Let me just, it's called Getting Started with Cloud Shell and G Cloud. Is that okay, Dhiren? Okay. So let's get back to the lab. Just give me a second. I need to reshare my screen. So we start off by gcloud auth list. This is basically the best practice for starting a cloud terminal, and they can ask you to authorize this. Once you do, okay, everything's active. We can do pick best project to see our project name. This is basic. These two are basically the exact things that you have here on your Quick Labs console. So once you get through this is a documentation. You're gonna find everything related to gcloud commands on this documentation. So we are gonna be creating a compute engine on cloud today. So let's see what our default zones and clouds are. For now, it should be not set because we didn't create an engine. But usually this comes out to what you're using, and it's actually important to take a look at it because you can determine why your cloud application is working slow, or if your cloud application doesn't have a certain API. So well set, looks fine. You try to type in your commands instead of copy and pasting them because it reinforces learning. So now we get started on creating shell for our project. Project ID is basically the one you have on Quick Labs. The project ID. Take this here. Something's wrong with my title. So when you do type in this command to describe project, you should be able to see that this has a region called US Central 1A and the zone of US Central 1. So what that basically means is that as we do not have a working machine yet, we have just hosted the project on the cloud servers of Google's California campus. So that's why it's showing Central 1A. So this is basically a quick description and an info box for all your cloud tools and environments. So let's create an environment variable so we can easily follow the project. So it's important that all throughout this lab you follow all the commands to the T, because Google Cloud has tendency of blocking your lab as soon as it detects something is going wrong or something is going differently. With the export command on Debian, you're basically just So with the export command, you're basically setting variables to the projects. For example, from now on, when you're gonna call on project ID, you're just gonna get your project ID, and so you don't have to copy and paste your project ID every single time. And for zone, that's the same thing. You don't have to write this into 1A every single time. You can just export zone. So verifying this, we're gonna echo our project ID. And we're gonna echo zone. Verify that we have everything set up correctly. Mine says API not enabled on project. I guess I missed a few questions. Is considering my enter button as a new line. Tanmay, you are asking about the cloud terminal. So it's gonna take your enter as a new token, yeah.
So like when I replace the project ID with my own project ID, when I hit enter, it takes that new line token. So it's saying syntax error.
Oh, I guess at some point you got into another text editor inside the shell. Do restart the shell and it should fix things, okay? Just
Thank you.
hit more and restart, okay?
Can I quickly add
Yeah.
something to this? I was having a similar problem. So just to check, when you're copying, I'm guessing you're copying the command and pasting it in and then hitting enter and you get the new line error. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So what you're doing is you're copying the new line that is on that code. So instead of copying, pasting, or like Command C or Control C, if you go in the top right of the code box, there's a copy icon, and you can click that and it'll copy it without that trailing new line. That hopefully will work.
Okay. Could you like try not to copy it and just write it down on your own? So copying this code actually increases your problems than like making it easier. And I have another question from Gandharva. Mine says API computer not enable on project this. Would you like to enable and retry? This will take a few minutes. Where is this showing exactly in the terminal? Okay, so if you face any such problems in the terminal, just go onto your terminal, hit this 3 more options button and restart it, okay? No, I haven't actually gotten this error ever. Which step were you in when you got this error? Just try project section. Okay, you should be able to do it once you restart the terminal. And if you don't, just let me know. with the solution for this. So, okay. We set the variables. Now, so last week, what we did was we went to the navigation bar, and then we went into compute engine, and then we created a virtual instance. However, this week, we are just gonna create a virtual machine on the command line. And this is a good practice because once you get familiar with the command line and get your you get the keywords and the syntax memorized, you can actually use the same commands on every single cloud infrastructure, including AWS and Azure. So GC Lab 2 is going to be our machine name. Type is N1 engine. So then we're gonna hit our echo zone from before. That should take a few minutes too. Nice work, Stephanie. You can also go to the navigation bar and then compute engine and VM instances to see your VM instance running.
Cool, thanks.
Yep, mine won't stop happening. So let's just go to the command that we used here. Gcloud compute is basically a command to manage your compute engine resources. We create an instance with instance create. We name our instance as GC Lab 2, and then we specify the machine type as N1 standard 2 and the zone as US Central 1 that we exported earlier. Okay. Let's say check my progress. And we can go to the navigation menu, scroll down to compute and go on to VM instances to Yep, this is our new virtual machine. So now the second part of this is to just look at a few Google Cloud commands that are actually helpful when working with the cloud. So basically gcloud help and gcloud h are commands that show you the documentation of this Debian based text editor. So the commands you may use and the groups of the commands. To exit the help menu, if you go on to the help menu, to go on to the help menu, you can use these to like navigate the help menu and look at the documentation. I'm just gonna quit for now. And you can configure your own help menu according to what you prefer using gcloud config help. And you can list your environments using gcloud config list. So you can see the auto update is turned off, and I mean it's disabled. You can see the timeout is 30, usage reporting is disabled, the environment is adaptation. And you can view all the properties of your project. Your zone back. Oh, okay. So let's see if I can scroll up to. Yep. No. On. No, this is it. Just off list. So well, yeah, let me just go through this serially. I'm seeing I don't have enough permission. Let's see. So, Dhiren Oja, I don't see my zone. So your zone is supposed to be unset, but once you describe your project, it's supposed to give you a temporary zone to host your VM engine, and then you just take when you type in gcloud compute project info describe, in the second or third line, you should see this key Google Compute default zone is US Central 1. So this is supposed to be your zone, and you should copy it when they ask you to define zone as zone. Not sure where to find it as well. My region is unset again. And now it's saying I don't have enough permission. Okay, so that would mean that you have to. Did you refresh it or restart it? Somehow. Oh, great. Stephanie, could you be a bit more specific about your region being unset?
Okay, so I've tried to do gcloud config list all, and part of it's showing a whole bunch of unsets, including region. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean.
Oh, okay. So when you hit gcloud config list, it basically shows you on your whole environment. But for now, you're just using a virtual machine and you haven't hosted anything or attached any APIs to it. So it's gonna remain unset till you actually host it and pay for like a service. Okay.
Oh, all right. Okay, thanks.
I'm still there. I've restarted it a couple of times. So what's the problem you're having? Like you can't enter your commands? Is that it?
Yep, all the other commands work, just like giving it authorization or etc. But particularly with this command, even if I type it completely everything, not even copying my project ID, straight away typing it in, it doesn't allow me to move further. It says syntax error. Because it considers my enter key as a token, and it then obviously gives a syntax error.
Okay, let's take a look at the most problem. Do you do mean like, wait, export project ID this command, right?
Not this one. Creating it, describing it, that one.
Oh, right. So did you do this properly? Like exporting project ID?
The line before this.
Oh, like
Yeah,
this one describe?
Yep.
So, see. So if you copy this whole command and paste it here. And you copy your GCP project ID from here. And you replace this, your project ID with register. So if you replace your project ID here, and then you hit enter and it says syntax error. Is that it?
Yep, because it is considering my enter as a token, like a character of new line as per me,
Yeah.
because it's a new token, new line token.
Are you set on default mode? Just give it a check, go into more and see if you're set on default.
It worked. It worked.
Dang,
Yeah,
that's a big relief.
it is. It is. Thank you so much. You can get back.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
okay. So, yeah, let's see. Now you can install a new component. So autocomplete mode. Autocomplete mode is fun, but I am not comfortable with it because I usually treat it like a VS Code autocomplete, and it can usually mess up my code. We're gonna do sudo apt because we're gonna sudo apt basically the command that you use when you're an admin, and we're gonna get install Google Cloud SDK. Yep. We are in the SDK. Hit install. It basically works as any text editor, but for a Linux terminal. Let's do the G Cloud. You can hit tab to complete. Compute. And this just feels slower. Our VM was named GCE Lab 2. Yes. Oh. Yes. GC. Okay, so for wait, didn't while creating VM it shows error permission denied. For that, the first thing you could have missed is your the first command that I showed, like auth gcloud auth list. That could be a problem. And do check it out. And if you did not use the command sudo apt-get in the SDK, we're moving on to this part. So for Stephanie's question, yeah. So what basically happens is, wait, did you mean zone southeast? Okay, so you must be talking about this part, right?
Yeah, because like what I was trying to do was like I did the gcloud compute instances describe your and then VM, and then it asked do you mean zone Asia Southeast 1A for instance? Yeah.
Okay, so what basically happens in these cases is when you say describe a project, you're not actually like the project names could be similar for a lot of different projects.
Okay.
Like I could call my project application and you could call your project application.
Okay.
So the very first command that you're shown, if it's in Southeast Asia 1, it's because Australia is closer to Southeast Asia, and the infrastructure for Google Cloud is based in Singapore and India. So so it's gonna show you the region closest to you.
Okay. So I just yes for that?
No, you're gonna click no for that. So when you hit yes, you're gonna get this error because it's not gonna recognize the actual virtual machine that you created here.
Oh, right.
So you're gonna hit no.
Okay.
And it's gonna the zone specified, and it's gonna get to recognize your VM from your from the VM you created earlier.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
It should be central one. Even not central. Okay. You could try central one instead, and it should give you a problem.
Okay, I tried that.
Okay, great. So this was the SDK for autocomplete. You could use it, but I prefer not to because I have suffered a lot using this SDK. Let's see, connect your VM with SSH. Virtual compute SSH zone.
I'm a little bit curious. What do you mean by suffered a lot from using that SDK? It sounds painful. So what happened?
It's because okay. So what basically happened is, well, you can see from here I use IntelliJ and VS Code, and for all of them I have Turbine installed. It's an AI autocomplete. So I have been using autocomplete for a long time, and this is perhaps the worst autocomplete, and I usually mix up the commands. Like for this autocomplete, you're gonna hit tab if it already shows you something. If it opens the drop-down menu, you're gonna have to click space. So, and this Debian-based terminal is quite hard if you like wander off to somewhere unknown. It's hard to just come back to your original place. You have to like restart from the starting line usually. So
yeah, all the
it's
fun
easy to yeah, you just have to like print out your whole documentation and sit down with it just like you.
All right, note to self, do not do that.
Well, if you do get to do it, it should be fun, and you can teach me as well. So that's great. Don't create a passphrase in task 3. That's usually a good way to go. We're gonna be learning about RSA encryptions in RMIT anyways, so I'm not gonna delve too much deeper into this. So it's basically a cybersecurity thing, okay? That's enough to know for now. Exit. We have created the SSH. So for the training directory, we need to go and we can bash using. So when you come up to task 4, bi:/.bashrc, it's gonna open the Vim text editor. So it's just nice to know that you have Vim here, because most of the thing you're going to be doing on cloud, you will be doing using Vim, and it's a nice editor. And you also have Nano, which is also a great text editor, all in Google Cloud Console. I'm just going to hit exit because my time is nearly over. This was so once you're like done with the lab, you have to like close this window, close your virtual machine window, and that's important because if you don't, the next time you open a lab, if you open the lab in your same tab, the next lab, it's gonna register it as a network failure and make you start out from your previous lab, okay? So if you're done with it, to close this window, let's get back to this.
Oh, sorry. Do we have to shut down our VM instance or?
Oh no, you don't have to shut down our VM instance. We just have to like close the tab.
Okay. All right. Cool.
But in the next lab, you do have to shut down your program just to get the certificate. Yes. Could not fetch resource. Zone ratio outage. Oh, you're gonna have to hit no in this part. You can't hit yes, Gandharva, because when you hit yes, they try to search for your project in Asia Southeast 1, but your project is actually in US Central 1A. So you're gonna hit no, and then they can actually look into your VM instance to see what your region actually is. So any questions or queries about this particular lab? Okay, so is everybody done with this particular lab? The first one. Go at your own pace. There is nothing to worry about. Just let me know if you're done with it. Which zone do you have to choose? You don't actually have to choose a zone. They're gonna give you a default zone of US Central 1A. Which part are you in exactly?
I live in
You're
India.
in? I mean, in the lab.
Okay.
Which part of the lab you're
Yeah,
in?
task 2, I suppose. Install a new component. It shows that the autocomplete of the zone is unable to find a new instance with name autocomplete.
You said task 2?
What? Sorry?
Or you said task 2 or task 4?
Task 2.
Okay, so in task 2, which part was it? Install SDK or
One minute.
describe VM?
It was third one.
Okay, so when you entered Google Cloud Compute instances, describe your VM.
Yeah.
It's basically the first thing it shows is how autocomplete works in the engine. So use autocomplete, and instead of your VM, our VM that we created was called GCE Lab 2. And once you hit enter, they're gonna ask if you're using these Southeast Asia version, but you're gonna have to hit no because your project is actually stored in US Central 1 that we saw from this part. You see?
Yeah.
It's in US Central 1A. So once you hit no, it's going to look into your VM engine to see where it's actually hosted. Okay.
Yeah, but actually it shows unable to find an instance with name autocomplete. So it shows choose a zone. It has number with different zones, so we have to choose from them.
Okay, so I got you just went down a rabbit hole, I guess. So you have to exit that part. Just type in exit.
Okay.
And then install the SDK again, and then follow the next steps. Okay, and this time when you come on to describe GC Lab 2, you will hit enter and then say no.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or queries about this part? The first lab, anything that you want to ask or know? Vanessa. Yep, you're okay to hit end lab if you're done with it. Well, Stephanie, if you when you're gonna be doing the second lab, you're gonna be doing it with the UI, and once you're in the UI, you can actually set the storage, the type of RAM you're gonna use, the type of storage you're gonna use, and everything. So
cool.
way more fun.
Yeah, because I've already done slightly similar stuff on Azure, but not on Google. So, I mean, not exactly the same, but it's a bit different.
Use GCP clusters. Oh, that's really fun. The Google Cloud machine learning and AI infrastructure is, I would say, the best in the world currently. I'll show you the next lab, I guess. Like when you go to the navigation menu and you just scroll through machine learning and AI, you get to see a huge area of APIs that you can connect to. Let's take 3 more minutes. Great, Lambda. Oh, you can also use Quick Labs to see. You can also learn about Lambda from Google Cloud for some reason. This is what I was talking about. Like you can actually have, they actually have a bunch of AWS certifications here as well. So if you ever want to do AWS certification instead of Google certifications, it should be, if you want to have access to it. We could start the next lab in 2 minutes. Not start the lab, like move on to the next one. Sure. Great, so I guess we can move on to the next part of the lab. If you guys aren't done with it or something, don't worry, just end the lab for now and you can get back to it later. Of course, you have like tons of credits. So the next part. So let's see. Inconsistencies in the development and production environments can result in your application working well in your development environment, but failing to deploy or run optimally in the staging and production environments. For example, your local development environment might be running Nginx 1.15 and SQLite for its database. But your test and production environments might be running Nginx 0.4 and MySQL for the database. Even if all environments are running the same types of software, they might be running different versions of the software. Errors caused by differences in the environment can be difficult and time-consuming to troubleshoot. The inconsistent sorry. The inconsistencies affect the overall reliability of your application releases. So, to solve that, we use Docker images. So Docker container image, which is this build container image. We use it to create repeatable and reliable deployments. Consider hacking your cloud native application as a Docker container image. The container image for your application is a complete package that contains the application binary and all the other software that is required for the application to run. When you deploy the same container image on your development, test, and production environments, you can be assured that your application will perform exactly the same in each of these environments. The Google Container Registry. Container Registry is a private Docker repository for your Docker container images. And the Kubernetes engine is an open source platform that orchestrates compute, network, and storage on behalf of your application. A Kubernetes cluster consists of at least one cluster, master machine, and machine worker machines called nodes. Nodes are compute engine virtual machine instances that run the Kubernetes process necessary to make them part of the cluster. Kubernetes engine is a managed service for Kubernetes, the Google Kubernetes engine, and you have this on AWS and Azure as well. Kubernetes engine enables rapid application development and iteration by making it easy to deploy, update, and manage your application and services. Okay, so I guess that's the basics of the Kubernetes engine, and we can actually move on to the next lab where you will get a better idea of Kubernetes clusters, and we're going to deploy an application on the cluster. Okay. So let's go ahead. Yeah. Especially when you're using a framework with the different versions. Overview, cluster orchestration, and let's go ahead and start this lab. This lab actually has a lot of reading in the beginning. Would you take a look at this? So this is Kubernetes. If you want to learn more about Kubernetes, join the community, take a look at the documentation, and you should. Getting started with Kubernetes is sounds tough for many, but once you get started with it, you should be able to catch on very quickly because there are so many good resources on the internet. This is actually a good resource, I guess. So this is the Google Kubernetes engine on Google Cloud. They have an entire series on Kubernetes engine on cloud that you can go through if you want to work with the Kubernetes engine on cloud. It's this link when you click Google Kubernetes engine GKE. And once you're used to Kubernetes, you're just gonna fall in love with this environment, okay? Because it's so good and it's so fast and it's so relieving to know that your application will run in all places. So these are basically when Kubernetes on Google Cloud, these are the basic features that they provide, but you can actually import more from the documentation that you're going to have when you deploy your Kubernetes engine. So we'll take a look at all this and let's get started with the lab. So do remember, if you're still on the same tab that you used for the last lab, close that tab and open a new tab, because once you open terminal, if you're on the same tab, it's gonna say that it has restarted the terminal from the place you last left. Before we're gonna running. So let's set up a default compute zone. I'm going to use Central 1A. So in task 2, we're gonna create our first Google Kubernetes engine cluster. So as I said before, we need a cluster master. And for this, we're gonna call this cluster my cluster. And do try to name it my cluster because you're gonna be using it later on, and Google sometimes raises errors when you don't call it my cluster. And it's gonna take a few minutes to create the cluster.
Yeah, it's quite slow to create it.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time, actually longer than to create a high functioning virtual machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do a subject called big data processing, and we have to prepare for a lab at least 15 to 20 minutes beforehand just to start the cluster. Using I think they use like an AWS instance or something.
But the Google Cloud Platform is like faster in doing things than. I guess it takes a lot of time because we are also using the US Central 1A one.
Yeah.
Because if we use Southeast Asia, we could have had less latency, but for learning purposes, we are not allowed to use any other regions.
Okay.
Hey Jackie, were you following right now with the lab?
Yep.
Oh, I actually forgot that it takes so long because I remember doing my assignments. So I did this and got back to my assignment.
Yeah, but it will just take 5 to 10 minutes.
5 to 10 minutes.
Luckily, we're all here to keep each other company.
Yeah. But it's... Oh, this lab... Yeah, this is the 5 to 10 minutes and then things are gonna pick up. Don't worry, guys. Okay. We're also gonna post an app called Hello App on the Kubernetes cluster. Basically, I joined your Discord server for GDSC.
I see you sent a funny meme.
I don't know, that week I went on this CS meme craze where I just kept sending memes to every single CS group that I was on.
I'm sure all those like communities would very much appreciate your memes.
By the way, guys, Sydney here is the GDSC lead for University of Sydney. So we can connect with him, and
Hi everyone.
he's gonna be throwing some great events in the future. So we should all join out as well, and especially in regards to events like these, because subscriptions and credits are expensive. But if we as a community arrange more and more workshops, we'll be getting more and more credits and subscriptions free for just attending such workshops. And we could actually use them to widen our certifications and labs and all that you take. Sydney, Tanmay just asked you a really fun question in the chat.
So to respond on if my real name is Sydney, yes, it's my real name. And yeah, so my parents came to Australia, and I'm guessing that they really loved both the city. Yeah, you know, it just they were vibing with that name, so they picked that name.
Did it correspond to the Sydney Olympics by any chance?
That's a great question. Yes, apparently. So I'm born in 2000, and the Olympics year was, 2000. I guess that was another contributing reason to why they named me that. And yeah.
That's a lot of fun coincidences. So
Stephanie, I feel like you'd be really good at like Sherlock Holmes novels, like just pick up the coincidences and the little hints and things and piece together.
Nah, not really. But I think with myself, the way I learned to code is kind of just try things and crash things. If I learned how to code if I learned how to drive like I learned how to code, I would have obliterated myself and the car, so I did learn something at some point.
So there's this flight simulator in RMIT. Have you guys tried it out ever?
No, I don't even know most of the actual campus.
Okay, so I guess it's in building 10 or it's in building 80. I did get to use it. It's free for RMIT students, by the way.
Oh.
And I remember just crashing the plane into the middle of the city.
Oh, you always want to go out with a bang?
No, okay, I shouldn't be saying this joke now. I'll say the joke after.
Okay.
I'll tell you the joke after the workshop is okay?
Oh, good. There's always, yeah.
So our cluster is ready, and we called it my cluster, and it's running. So let's go ahead and deploy our first server. We use kubectl create deployment. Hello server is going to be the name of the server, and image is the file. Simple slash app, and that's 1.0. This is the first time that it worked in one go. I usually make some mistake while copying this from tracking this out from quick labs to place. Create a Kubernetes service. Let's create a Kubernetes service. So, it works on there go. Okay. Engine was set up pretty quickly. I want to literally 5 to 10 minutes. Start it. It's exposed, and I guess it's ready to get started. Let's check. Okay.
Choose your fighters. Vikings inspired. Fight.
So for a lot of you, the external IP it's gonna show pending when you type in kubectl get service. So if it shows that it's pending, just reload it by using the same command, kubectl get service. Don't reload your browser. Just type in kubectl get service again, and you should see an external IP. And then we can just check our app that we just deployed on the cluster.
That's very pretty for a standard hello thing.
Yeah, there is another way as well. You should go to navigation menu and then go to Kubernetes engine.
Oh, okay, hang on. I'll try the command first.
Yeah.
What's wrong with my one external IP?
Yeah, you should try the navigation menu because it's faster.
Yeah, but yeah, you could try the navigation menu.
So, navigation dashboard or?
Navigation menu, and then can you see Kubernetes engine?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, then go to services category.
Hang on, I'll see. Services.
Here.
I just click on this thing, I guess.
Yeah, so services,
Yeah.
and then can you see the external IP? Yeah, services
so-
and yeah, that one.
Hello
Ingress.
server.
So, can you see the arrow, the endpoints? Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is anyone having problem with it? Like doing this part or? Well, contact user again. Looks okay. I have my external IP. It's gonna accept this. What is going on with my phone? Well, if the command line doesn't work, it should probably work from here. Let's refresh this. Did I hit HTTP? Oh, I use HTTPS. In any case, if I do open it up from endpoint, it should work. Okay, I guess it's because of my connection. Like I have too many tabs open, and I'm actually downloading a script from the background. So, but for most of you, Jackie, do you want to like show your application?
Oh, yeah, wait. Because I
You're
already
done with it? Yeah.
Yeah, so have you done, so after you, okay. Oh, cool. I think it accepts your thing.
Yeah, it's just try without HTTP. Don't use HTTP. Use HTTP. Try typing without HTTP. My browser is trying to Google the web instead of. Stephanie. Did you like try from this part, like from the navigation menu?
No, that might be.
Okay, so what you're gonna do is go to the navigation menu.
Yep.
And you're gonna see under Compute Engine, Kubernetes Engine, and then you're gonna click on Services and Ingress. It should bring you here. I'm sure here you should be able to click on Endpoints.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, mine isn't working because it's taking too long to respond. It's not even a, just a timed out error, so great work it in. Let's just keep loading. Is anyone else having any problems? When you like open the cluster, you're gonna see this expected output. Let's say hello world version 1.0 hosting. Next week, Ryan. That would be the last workshop. We're going to complete the load balancers and celebrate our badges together. Okay, great work, Vimal. When it works, Stephanie, is your one working?
Hang on. Gosh.
Like, I keep getting this.
Yeah, the link should work because in my case the link works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works. Sorry, I couldn't find the video tab.
Oh, cool.
Ryan, do you remember to like delete the cluster and check your progress before you exit the window? Okay. One last. Okay, so for those who have created your cluster, you have to delete the cluster using this command, and your cluster name is my cluster. Before you hit delete, check my progress because it's gonna show that your cluster is still there. So delete your cluster before you end this lab, okay? I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this cluster because something is wrong with my browser. And it's gonna take a few minutes to delete your cluster as well.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, that also takes time to delete.
Cloud stuff normally does, I guess.
Oh, it's gonna take its sweet time that it took to just create the cluster. So let's keep this in mind. So these are some additional resources that you can use to learn more about the cloud. You're gonna have all of them available in the GDSC RMIT event page that you use to log into this event. It's gonna be there as a featured slide. Basically, these are links to the illustrated children's guide to Kubernetes. So it's very basic stuff. You should be an intermediate in like 2 months if you like follow these guidances. I guess I could say most of you already understand a lot about Kubernetes because the chats were very active when we were talking about Kubernetes. So this is the lab. Did anyone have any problems or any questions regarding this particular lab? Yeah, even programming. I just feel weird when I see 12 or 14-year-olds going to classes for learning programming.
One time I was doing this workshop for like young high school girls. There were 2 kids from like year 5 and 4 who were doing completely like they were a level above everybody else. Literally. Like they made a Python chatbot like very quickly.
Whoa. I am really ancient now.
Like year 5 or 4 or something. I was just like blown away. They didn't even ask that many questions. And they were like year 12 kids who were like completely lost.
Wow.
The associate certificate, I did the AWS certification. It took me about 3 months, but I did not have uni. IAS, okay? So 3 months as in I started after uni closed in November. And then I took my sweet time to just go through the entire thing. You can find a few resources on Android. They have just questions and answers, like Android apps. And that's about it. You wouldn't need much of anything else, just the AWS certification training that they provide. But for this GCP quest, you can see the GCP Essentials quest, GCP Essentials certification. It's a specialization in Coursera. We'd go through that to figure out how much time you need, what are the topics they're going to cover, and everything else. Okay. The exams are easier, I guess, in person because I did do one exam virtually, and the invigilator actually wanted me to show him around the room and show me where I keep my phone and if I have papers nearby. You have to go to AWS certifications, Google it, or just Google Cloud certifications. AWS actually takes a whole exam in front of an invigilator. Like it's hosted by Pearson exams, but Google Cloud and Azure actually have a smoother experience because you can just be online and they will have quiz and stuff. Okay.
Hi, is it possible for us to do this on our own, like go to quick labs and like do it on our own?
Yeah, you can do it on your own. So in the extra section in the last workshop too, we actually just talked about one certification. So these are like tidbits, like a small lab of certification that you can get, and it's like easier for you to, you can use these credits that you have to do any lab or certification that you want.
Thanks.
Oh, you're on a shared list, so be careful because someone else might use your credits before you do. So we're near to the end. Are you guys done with the lab? How was it? Do you have any questions or confusions?
People, we're going to have a survey for students, so please make sure to fill it out and submit as a good, reputation. We need a good reputation, so.
Yeah, so everybody who came here, you will get that on your email at like 9 o'clock today. So it would really help us like improve our services for you guys potentially down the line if you did that. So shall we wrap this up then? 3 minutes early.
I guess. Let me just talk about something. So that's a wrap for today's event. And as you can see, you're almost done with the batch. So just one more workshop to go. And this shiny thing is actually gonna shine the next time. Before I hand it over to Milindi, just a quick extra. This is a Google cloud source repository. This is a certification that you can do. It will just cost you 1 or 2 credits, and it's a great alternative to Git and GitHub, because you can also connect your projects to Google Cloud, host them on Google Cloud, and connect the Google Cloud APIs. Okay. So that's that, and I think Milindi, you should take over from here.
Well, I guess everything has been said right now, and I really hope that everybody who attended enjoyed our workshop by our brilliant computer magician, Prottay, and also moderated by Jacqueline, and really hope that you guys learned something, and we hope to see you next week as well. Please make sure to follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook, and also join our Discord server. There's a lot of buzz going on these days about a spicy event that's coming up, so definitely keep a lookout. I can see that Steph was doing that. That's because we're pairing up with RMIT Switch and the Programming Club as well to do this event, so look forward to that. And the next event link, I put it in the chat, so you guys can just go ahead and sign up right now. And yep, that's it. See you next week, y'all. Yes.
It was fun, even though I had a lot of errors.
Yeah, I saw you were panicking, y'all.
Yeah, I was literally panicking in the chat.
See ya, everyone.
Have a
Thank you
great
for
weekend,
having me.
everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank
Take
you for
care.
coming.
See ya.